Hello and welcome to another episode of Happy Hour at the Old Timer Tavern. I am one of your two hosts, Lantern Noir, aka Rob the DM, and I stream 2 days of the week. I stream Candlekeep Mysteries, and I'm about to start Curse of Strahd for the 17th time since 1980 something. And with me is the amazing
Graybeard at Graybeard's Tavern, and I play on a Masks campaign currently. Play in a game I'm running on Saturday nights that's very tongue-in-cheek beer and pretzels, and then I play Sunday mornings over at my own channel where we do variety streaming and play with toys.
which is, you know what? What better way to spend a Sunday morning?
Mm-hmm.
I've been flirting with the idea of doing like a D&D planning stream somewhere in my week.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, I don't want to get pretty to do planning. I just want to plan. And oh my gosh, Curse of Strahd is kicking my backside. Because back when it came out, when I was in middle school, it was like, here's a castle, and here's a village, and here's a plot line with a vampire. Now, go kill the vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, oh wait, but you can go here, and then you can go here, and here's like a whole 9 sessions of adventures in one city. And
Right.
and I'm like, can I cut this? Can I cut that? Well, if I cut this, then I have to cut that. And if they ever go here, it has references to here, 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 and here. So I have to make sure I cut some of those references if I don't want the players to go here, here, here.
Here's your IO connection dot, Venn diagram of how characters overlap and
Yes.
what they need to do to intersect with other characters.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I've been looking, like I spent probably 5 or 6 hours now just trying to wrap my head around all of the different relationships that they've put into this. Because I'm trying to do right by the new publication.
Mm-hmm.
And I have some really fun twists I've planned. I'm changing some characters already because I'm like, I don't see a 9-year-old tagging along with the party, but if she was like 12, all right.
So my character became the ward of the character you're talking about when we played it, and so yeah, protector.
Okay, guardian of. Okay.
Yeah, swore to.
Okay.
Anyway, without any spoilers there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, in my head, she was always like 12.
Yeah.
9 was a little, just seemed too young for the things she could do and whatnot. And then eventually someone played her as a NPC guest character.
Oh, fun.
And stuff. It was a really good, it was over on Indoors channel, and Wings was running it, and she had rotating guests. So I was only in about 4 sessions of it. As like, this character who would show up and tell them the things that they needed to know, and then zip off and be gone for several episodes and then show back up with some bits of wisdom. It was fun. It was good times. Good
Awesome.
times. So.
Well, if you haven't picked up on it yet, Gray and I get together every Tuesday at 5 o'clock, aka the happy hour, when we get off the clock and we get a chance to get on a bar stool and swap some stories about Dungeons and Dragons, or any other RPGs we've talked about. I think we are far enough along in our tenure that we can actually start to say, let's talk about a different RPG this week.
Mm-hmm.
I think our cred as D&D elder statesman has been established. But what's been up with you late with the gaming of late? Has there written some fun stories off the Graybeard table?
So Thursday night, of course, Masks. It's, you watch the YouTube videos over on Indoor Adventure. I can't do it justice. The teen angst and things that's going on is really good. And then, of course, I think they're still free right now, but his Patreon, we do a Nights in the Courtyard, like an after show, because I kept telling him over the years, hey buddy, we sit here and we talk for half an hour, 45 minutes after the show anyway. You might as well record that and use that as extra content, And so we take questions, questions from the court, and we answer questions, and we, yammer and like, ooh, it's so good and this and that. But yeah, it's interesting playing teens and going through that mental exercise. Being late for class, or having to get to a job, or keeping things a secret, that's all. It's all CW teen angst kind of stuff, but it's so fun to play when you're,
not
my age.
Indeed. Well, I'm thinking back too. It's like, I don't know how much fun I don't know how much I appreciated games like Teenagers from Outer Space when I was a teenager. But looking back at it now, it's like, oh, it would be really fun to riff off some of those teenage tropes that I was literally living now that I have some distance between me and it, and I can look at what an idiot I was.
I got to play in a 2-part thing with LB, DMing Kids on Bikes, where I was a punk kid and more, and go check those episodes out sometime if you want to see that. But I did the whole mohawk, what I have a lot of hair on top, and usually I have my sides shaved, but apocalypse. But I took what's up on top and I made it into a mohawk and put on my old army coat, and it punked it up. It was a lot of fun. So it was good to be, back in the old skater punk kind of feel for a day or two. I got to play in a one-shot over on Laugh Love Lindy's channel one time, and I played, what are they called? Oh, Whovians, where are you now? The rhinoceros people in Doctor Who. I can't remember what they're called, but that was the basis of my Alien, because there you're all teenage aliens on a field trip to Earth, and so I played a rhinoceros kid, and that was good times too. So lots of games out there, people. Check them out.
Oh, so many things you can do with it. Well, cool. It sounds like you had a pretty solid week.
Yep.
But my Sunday group, after a few weeks off because one of our players was not feeling well, so we had 1 week we played Sea of Thieves, just those of us that were around. And last week, the week before this, we ended up doing a one-shot. So I ran a modified version of Death House from Curse of Strahd.
Oh, yeah.
And that was fun, especially watching the one player who knew Death House in and out, trying to figure out what I was doing. We had a chance to finish the campaign last Sunday.
Oh, nice.
So we started this campaign with book 1 back in November, and we have now proceeded through 3 of the storylines, and they've just set sail for Barovia. And they've left on the mission. I didn't think they were going to be so cool with it. I thought I'd have to have them have a few more encounters to set it up, but they went, okay, I guess we'll leave the harbor master in charge, and his vampire daughter will keep an eye on him, and we're gonna go try to kill Strahd, who made her a vampire, so that maybe she won't be one anymore. Let's go see if it works. And they all hopped on a boat and they sailed off. And because
into the mists.
Still in the mists. I've been playing a little loose and fast with the domain of dread here.
Okay.
Barovia is just like a couple-hour ride from a port that is still within the domain of dread.
Nice.
So it's still in there.
And did they start in the domain of dread?
No, they actually started at the tavern that Indoor blew up during a test run of my initiative tracker. Actually, it wasn't Indoor. It was Wings. Wings, I think, is the one who blew it up. Because they were playing a wild mage,
Mm-hmm.
and they did a spell, and then we did the random surge, and it was like a level 7 fireball centered on themselves was the magic surge, and it was like, and that's the end of the night, because all
There it
these
is.
second level characters got emulated,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
did the
Yeah.
bar. And so when they started this random little tavern where they're like, we were supposed to meet a guy here for a job. That's not going to happen. And they grabbed the first contract poster they could find, because they're like, well, we need a job. It's been, so many months since we've had legitimate work, and the ranger and the fighter didn't want to go back to a life of crime.
Yeah.
So they hired on with a caravan, and then the caravan got sucked into the mists.
Gotcha.
And we ended that very first session with them having passed into the mists and stumbled onto a little German-esque hamlet beset by zombies, and they have just been proceeding from one moment of chaos to the next.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love taking old campaigns, particularly if you have like one player who was in the last campaign, and then you pull them in and you give them that little, that trail of crumbs and whatnot.
Well, I hadn't planned on it being connected in any way, but I got RJ, Wings, and Indy to give me a quick hand on a Saturday night or Friday night to make sure I understood how to work the initiative tracker with players at the table. And based on that ending, I'm like, well, this is just too cool not to incorporate into the story somewhere.
Yeah.
So
I watched a highlight of yours today, and I'm digging your layout. You got chat, and you get the dice, and it's just a really good layout for a game.
Well, I think on the tips for streaming, I don't know if that we're thinking like generic advice today, but my first tip on streaming is to remember that you have an audience. And that's, I think, one of the trickiest things that transitions between tabletop and online.
Yeah.
Is that you have to figure out what you want to do with the fact that you have an audience watching you.
Right.
So what do you do to keep them informed visually as well as story-wise to participate? And that's a lot of my layout process has been, how do I get as much stuff in front of a viewer that's been watching for 15 seconds?
Yeah. Well, and that's it's good to have that extra info. And now, I mean, there's like apps and things, particularly if you're using D&D Beyond, you can literally go over, scroll over, and their character sheets pop out, or their stats and hit points and everything pop out, and then if you click on it, you can go to their actual character sheet and stuff. I'm like, wow. 10-year-old me could not have possibly imagined, that I could be playing with someone in Australia, on any given Friday night, and we could just like look at each other's character sheets.
Oh, I think about the number of times I've been to a con and I've been watching people play, and they're like, I can tell they're having a great game and they're really into it, and there's some really either good out of character like planning or in character banter, and then my curiosity kicks in. I'm like, ooh, I wonder, does he have that one feat? And you don't want to be that guy who says, hey, can I see your character sheet real quick? So things like that overlay with D&D Beyond is a great way to like indulge an audience member without him having to ask in chat, hey, does anybody know if Jensen took the haunted background and that's why they're doing what they're... It's like, take a peek and then come back and ask us about it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. I think, some of the generic GM stuff, I don't over prep. It's no matter what you plan, no plan survives contact with the party, and so as soon as they touch your plan, it's going to go sideways anyway. So I minimalize your prep. That's like my number one tip, and I know that some people play really good that way, some people do not play well that way, and it's up to your style, but do as much prep as you need to get the session, to be comfortable in the session. But I can tell you, my buddy Muddy, he used to pull his hair out because as soon as we'd get to the table, he'd be like, "The dwarf brings you the scroll that tells you you have inherited the castle on the hill." Okay, yeah, we're going to go talk to that druid, like, in the north, that rumor we heard, like, 3 sessions ago, and we'll get back to this castle thing for, some other time. And Muddy would be like, "Okay, I prepped the castle." And that's what we were going to do for the next 8 hours. But you guys want to trudge north,
Well, and I think that's the best part about modern D&D DMing is it is so much easier now to over prep other stuff. So, for example, my Sunday game, I didn't know what they were going to do for their resolution, and they didn't give me a lot of hints this time. The last 2 storylines, they kind of told me before we went into the last session, we think we're going to blah. And I could go, okay, it sounds like you're siding with, you actually are not siding with the zombie lord. I'm a little surprised. But okay, we can go with that. Cool, and I can start to plan around that. But this last one, I had no idea what they were going to do. So I put in my files, here are 5 balanced combat encounters using NPCs they've come across. Whatever they do, the stuff that involves the hard planning, how many hit points does it have, how many of them are there to keep it fair and interesting, yada, 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 those were all prepped.
Yeah.
And my story arcs were all ready to go. So it's I could improv around the characters because I knew I'd written the characters up enough to know, okay, she's going to have, this is her motivation, this is his motivation, this is what he wants to see at the end of the day. I had a whole plan where the one of the 2 rivals to run the town was going to have a massive council meeting where he was going to bring all the heads of all the major gangs together and then have them all assassinated as his opening show of force. I run this town, and here's how you know I run it. I screwed you all over on my first 10 minutes. Yeah. And it was all ready to rock and roll, and they went, yeah, we're going to punch him in the face. I went, really? It's yeah, we're rolling initiative now. Okay, we can go that way with this. And he's got to roll with that. But I think what's nice with using not just D&D Beyond, and they did this with 4th edition, they made it a lot easier. They tried to do it with 3rd. 3.5 had the you can't kill me when I didn't plan it. Yep, that's fair. That's fair. Oh, I've had a couple of hey, we need a 5-minute break. I gotta go find a CR5 creature for this moment. Yeah. And yes, I have taken troll stat blocks and slapped them on a mayor.
Yes.
He's supposed to be badass. So badass CR5 monster. Gotta work.
Plot armor.
But yeah, but that's just the kind of thing you kind of learn how to roll. The 3 introduced the idea of encounter levels. They started kind of coming into that sense of here's how you can kind of see if this encounter is well balanced. 4 had really hard and fast formulas. You had your XP budget, and 5 is kind of back to that CR. And there's so many tools for going, okay, is this a good combination of monsters that should be a challenge?
Every Fight Club, I can't think of any of the other ones. Even the encounter creator within D&D Beyond, I shoot for deadly. I just always shoot for deadly because it seems to be so funky that if you don't shoot for deadly, they're like, why are you hitting yourself? So.
Although you want to be, I mean, it's weird because with Candlekeep, one of the things that came across last week, they came across a were-rat. And it didn't really click in my brain at the time, but the were-rats are immune to normal damage. It's only silvered or magic. Right. But by luck that they had a magic item from the first adventure, and they had a spellcaster. Because those were the only two that could hurt him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this can get really... Now, granted, once again, our barbarian librarian rolled for the Dickens and just crushed everything in her way. I'm telling you, man, by the time she hits like 4th or 5th level, there ain't going to be a single late book anywhere in the Forgotten Realms.
Well, and I think that's the clip I watched where one of them was totally like, "You should just rage all the time. That's my secret. I'm always angry."
I should turn that into a sound alert.
There it is.
Now that I think of it, now that we said, like, that's my project tonight. Make that a sound alert. But yeah, so that's, I mean, it's a trick to balance. Prepping's like one of those, it's a weird thing as a teacher, because there's a big thing about, well, you got to write all your lesson plans. You got to write your lesson plans. And there have been days where I've done some really amazing teaching by walking in, opening the book and saying, oh, I'm teaching the Pythagorean theorem today. Close the book, go up to the board, like, all right, guys, we're doing the Pythagorean theorem today. Buckle up. And I've taught it so many times, and I know where students are going to struggle. I know where they're going to get confused. I can lay it all out. I can bring the kids up to do stuff on the board, and it's like, that's experience. Now, my first couple of years teaching, I had whole outlines written out. I had all these kinds of questions to ask. I had to plan through everything. And I think for like a newer DM, don't be afraid to plan contingencies, and just know that if you don't like planning, don't volunteer to DM.
This is great because me and you, I could see, are gonna go, okay.
Right. What are you thinking?
Because one of the things that I have always said is, so there's this new game. It's called Dwarf Romantic, and it's all about placing little tiles, and the little tiles all go together, and you make little villages and railroads and rivers and stuff. My advice to new GMs is everything is modular. Your universe is modular. If you have a big bad bugbear with 2 dire wolves and half a dozen goblins, and he's over here in this cave, well, now he's not, because they didn't go to the cave. And if it's part of your storyline, they run into him on the road. They attack them in the farmhouse that they stay in that night. If it's important to the plot, they can be anywhere. Every piece is modular. Or if they go past something, you take that chunk, that tile, and you set it aside for 3 adventures down the road. You're like, oh, okay, so those aren't bugbears. It's a fire giant now that they're 10th level, and those are hellhounds and fire methods. That same encounter now reskinned, plunk, here's the new bad guy that I wanted to put in that they didn't get to when they were 3rd level. Now they're 10th level. Blam. Everything is modular. So you can write scenes or just notes about scenes. And as long as there's cohesion between things, you're doing okay. One of the things when I was a much younger dungeon master, I could run 4 games and I could keep it all straight, and I could keep all the connections between all the characters and things good. Yes, I'm getting older. I took a bit from a game called Impulse Drive, but they have it in a bunch of different games. And what I have now is I have like a disposition sheet, and every NPC and every faction, everything is on this disposition sheet, and I can it's an Excel sheet in Google, and I can click on the person, and now instead of neutral, they're suspicious. Now they're untrustworthy. Now they're against. Now they're hated. And I've got the delineation both ways. Oh, now they're, friendly, blah, 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 bonded, life friends, that kind of stuff. So that I can juggle all that. Again, DMing off a computer. It changed everything, you know. Do we got stuff in chat?
It does, but I want to, before we get to the question from chat, I want to piggyback on what you just said, which is to agree about the modularity of planning. Is that I modified our on-screen tip to reflect the fact that, like, you can, if it's really critical for the storyline that everyone meets a particular person and you have them placed at a party in the castle and they say, nope, we're going to the tavern. Then all you need to do is, in however long it takes to get to the tavern and lay the scene in the tavern, is come up with a reason that plot hook went to the tavern.
Right.
That's it. And the neat thing is you don't even technically need to do that work because it's only relevant when they ask.
Right.
And players quite often don't ask those questions. They don't really like ping somebody to say, hey, why exactly are you hanging out down here in the lower quarter? They're like, something's going on. This noble's in the lower quarter. We probably shouldn't ask. That will upset them. And so if you play it really well, you can even get away without answering the question. They're there for plot.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that you can reskin about locations to get that modularity. Welcome, Eric. Glad to have you hanging out today. The question from the chat for us on DM tips is, are you ever afraid to kill a player off? No. Yes, actually, I'm very afraid of killing off players. I find that is a criminal offense in most states. So I try not to actually harm my players in any way that can be traced back to me on a legal level. Let's amend that. Are you ever afraid to kill a character off? The balance feels hard if you aren't willing to kill someone off, but maybe let the rest run away.
So D&D has changed. It has really changed. I mean, Red Box D&D, there were times where there was a stack of, depending on what horrible module we were playing, there would just be a stack of characters, and everyone would come with like 5 or 6 characters, and you'd shuffle them up, and there'd be the stack. And when you were dead, you just pulled the next character, and that was your new guy. So yeah, in those days, no, next. And then as time went on, it became, and as time went on, then they, as more mechanics were introduced, resurrection, and such, where reincarnation, resurrection, that sort of thing, it became part of the game. Okay, you want Blackleaf to be alive. Let's go, save Blackleaf. We'll take the dust that is him from the beholder, and we'll go have it recreated. And then as story has become more important, I think it's become harder to kill off characters. You want a character death to mean something. You want a character death to be cool, not Game of Thrones.
Thud. Well, I was actually about to say, one of the great debates in nerddom is the death of Wash on Firefly. Yeah. And spoilers for a fairly old movie.
Too soon.
For a movie that's been out, so I'm sorry if you didn't know this, but even without like full spoilers, it just kind of happened not only out of the blue, but in an otherwise we did it moment. And so it's one of those where, as a viewer, I did not enjoy that.
Right.
I didn't feel, it was weird when I was in the theater. This is coming back to D&D, bear with me. In the theater, I stopped caring. Like, I had been shipping, like every other Firefly fan, I'd been shipping Simon and Kaylee the whole way through. And all I wanted was to see those two get it on. And then when this happened, I'm like, I don't care. They can die now. They're all going to die. And it was weird because I think at a game table in a modern setting Once the first one's down, it's like, okay, we're all going to gloriously go into a TPK here.
Yep.
Let's do it. All right, there's no need to worry about running away now. We're all dying together.
Yeah, the TPK spiral, man.
Yeah, which I think, and a point that Eric brought up is, are you afraid of this? And I think in the modern era, I don't want to end up at the table, either as a player or as a DM, where we aren't all on board with that.
Right.
Or we're not all invested in this glorious ending. Eric's adding now, I'd be sad if my character died, but my son was like, it's okay. I'll just start another class I've been wanting to play. And I think if your table has that attitude of, you know, I've been playing a fighter for 3 levels. I want to make a 4th level wizard. That's awesome. And if the players are thinking that I'm down with it, I think it's a lot harder when it's random.
Yep.
Or it's mid-session, or it's the result of bad dice rolls. Because usually in stories, not counting, even counting Game of Thrones, not many major characters just died because of sheer dumb luck.
Right.
They usually survive by sheer dumb luck. Case in point, Harry Potter taking on a troll. He even got points for Gryffindor, literally, for sheer dumb luck. Those were her exact words. Yeah. But I think that with people that are starting to put more and more energy into fleshing out a character with like the biffs, the bonds, and it's bonds, flaws, and ideals. And saying, look, here are some very specific things that make this character stick out, and they help flesh out their attitude about the world. They're not just a race class combo with an alignment tacked on.
Yep.
And the more we do that, the harder it is to go, okay, I guess they're dead now.
There was so much more story for this character, you know.
Although, again, I think it comes down to know your table. Like, I mean, we've talked about session zeros in our tips for DMs without being a tip. It's just like we have a whole episode dedicated to session 0. And I think this is another one of those, looping back to that. If your players are like, no, we want to have a game where if I roll bad 5 times in a row, my character dies. And I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Okay. I'm down with that.
And yeah, again, the tone, you know, us playing here, my youngest was maybe 10 when her first D&D character technically died. And it was like just a complete weirdness at the table and all this, but I was ready for it.
How were you ready for it?
Oh, so what I did was I was like, as everything goes dark, you see a golden glimmer. It begins to form and blossom and bloom like some sort of flower. As the golden radiance comes towards you, it takes form into this I forget what I said, luminescent being of springtime energy. And I offered her, I said, okay, this is basically an archfey spirit who has come to you and says she will save you if you'll take a level in Warlock and become her patron. And so it was like a big, you know, moment, like, ooh, I get new powers and I get new stuff, and cool, I still get to be this same character, but this is how we're going to continue the story with them. It's one of those where I would, in most cases, if we were sitting at a table, I would say to most people, you know, okay, technically you're dead. How do you want to play this? You know, do you want to be saved? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? You know, and go from there.
That is, like, I think the best advice I would give anybody as a DM. I'm actually typing this up right now for the stream. But yeah, that idea of, okay, how do you want to handle this as a player? Because some players will say, you know what? I'll roll somebody else, and the next time we can brainstorm some creative way to get me into the game.
Yep.
Which actually kind of piggybacks a little bit on another question Eric brought in, which is, and it kind of piggies on this, is what do you do when there's a bunch, to get these new characters back onto the table? And like, I think back in the 80s, when we had our stack of backup characters, we didn't think anything past. Well, you look like a trustworthy individual. Would you like to adventure with us? Why, yes. Why, yes, I would. Or the classic, hi, I am Trebor's brother. I understand he adventured with you. I would like to take up his role in your party.
You can call me Trebor too.
Yes. And you just kind of keep, yes, my name is Ivor.
Yes.
And so forth.
A classic was, yes, as the last ogre falls, you hear kicking and a muffled grumble from behind the crates. Oh, look, it is the halfling rogue.
Yeah.
that I just pulled off the top of the stack. He's now, you rescued him.
Let's trust this prisoner that we found bound and tied in this dungeon. Let's give him a full set of weapons and armor so that they can do their part as we continue to adventure.
Oh my, look in this barrel. It seems to be your stuff.
Yeah, but it works really well. I mean, you can do a lot, but the idea of letting the player have some agency over how vested they are. Mm-hmm. And things like, I can see some players reacting to no, I'm not taking a level of warlock. My character's just dead. And not because they want to be dead, but they don't like that option.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't think my character ever would accept. And sometimes players will surprise you. Minor tangent. I was playing with LB, actually. And they were trying to get back to a castle as fast as they could with news. And they came across a dryad who said, I can take you through the trees. We can be there in a day.
Yeah.
I can, this journey that should be 2 weeks, we can do it in an hour. And they're like, sweet, let's go. And then LB goes, well, what's the cost? And the dryad looked and goes, I want the color of your eyes. And she looked at me and went, so what's that mean? I'm like, that means you'll have gray eyes. Your character will permanently have gray eyes. And she's like, pass. Mm-hmm. And a part of me was like, what? Like, this is like, this is going to be great for the party. It's not, it's kind of a big deal, but it's like, ooh, the sacrifice you're making, and you'll have this neat character quirk for the rest of your character's life. I'm like, but you're not taking it? Really? Okay. And then I was like scrambling, like, well, she turned that one down. I can't think of anything else I'd take from, because I was really like tied on the dryad wanted to like take something that people pride as payment. And I'm like, I can't think of anything I can hit these guys up for at this point. They're likely to say yes to, so screw it.
Right.
Dryad goes back to the tree. You're on your own.
Good luck, adventurers. I'm out. Drops the mic.
But, and again, it comes down to that some players will be really into, it's a player thing. And I think that's a big change, like you said, over the years. Where there's so much more emphasis on the player agency at the table compared to what there used to be years ago. We were just talking about, because I wasn't working today because I was giving a test, and traditionally when I give tests, I surf the internet and watch the students take the test. I was on the forums, and somebody was talking about they wanted to have an encounter where the players were wiped out at the end. They wanted they want a forced TPK. And then the players come to imprisoned by the big bad evil guy. Right. He's like, how do I do this without them feeling like I railroaded them? And we all kind of went, you can't.
Right.
They're going to feel railroaded. And that guy was talking about TPKs. And one thing I put out is that I think worse than having your character die is having to have NPCs keep your character alive.
Yeah, or the famous, like you just said earlier, the last stand.
Yes.
Rather than lose our stuff, we will die on this hill.
So let me pitch my solution to you in chat, and you guys tell me what you think of it. Or gals, whoever's here. Wave 1. mostly an overwhelming battle, but one with good dice rolling and good tactics, they can win. So 10 guards.
Yeah.
If they survive it, and they should know going in, like if they lose it, it's probably from bad dice rolls and bad choices.
Yeah.
Wave 2. Now they're really outclassed.
Yeah.
And they're going to either they have to run, but maybe they can't now because they're too deep, and they're fighting it out to the very bitter end. Maybe one goes down. They're like, no, we got the last of the guards. Then wave 3 shows up. And in initiative order, you tell them, this is your last stand.
Yeah.
You are going to go down now. Initiative 20, what do you do for your last stand?
Yeah.
Okay, initiative 15, what do you do for your last stand? And come on, bring it. And if they do a great job, you can do things like say, okay, make a mark on your character sheet. Next session, you start with inspiration.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when we get to like the aftermath, there's the NPCs will be reacting with like, I don't like you, but I respect that you fought bitterly to the end. Or, I can really, I didn't think it would take the 3rd Battalion to bring you guys to heal. We're going to keep you in extra security because you're dangerous to us.
Yeah.
Like, let the players have a little bit of an upswing for like, yeah, we lost, but dang, we took a lot of them with us.
Right.
And like, feed a little bit of that ego of like, yeah, you guys did pretty well, all things considered. You were gonna lose.
Yep.
But that last wave, it cannot be. There's no dice. Dice should not be part of that last stand. It should just be you're going to go down. Do something epically fun with it.
Right.
There are no rules. You want to kill 8 guards on your way down? I'm totally cool with you doing that. Just make it sound cool for everyone else at the table while you do this.
Yeah.
And
I have done in the past in olden times where it has been TPK and done you wake up in a cave, bound, your equipment in bags over there, kind of thing, or you wake up chained to a wall in the dungeon kind of thing. But that's all stuff that nowadays you would want the player agency about, or you would want to do it in a session 0, or as the last one goes down, say, was that your guys' last stand? Do you want to continue with these characters? Here's some options I might have.
I like that.
And some of the options could be you are captured, you are sold to, slavers. A band of X actually saved you. The Elven Rangers appeared at the last moment and killed everyone, all the bad guys, and resuscitated you. That sort of stuff.
And for some players, that the elves that they made friends with 3 adventures ago, showing up to save their hides at the last second, is almost a fate as bad as character death. When you think about it, I mean, it makes some sense within some stories, but it's still like, we lost. We only won because you want to keep the story going and we don't want to make new characters.
Right. And I can see that. But how many shows have you seen that end on that cliffhanger of, we got you, and then everything goes black, or the building explodes, and you're like, okay, what? And then that's why I was like, okay, in that case, the tavern, gets hit by the earthquake spell, and the earthquake spell happened to, be the last thing that killed everyone, or the dragon breath. And then, oh, you all wake up in the aftermath underneath as you all fell down into the cellar as the building collapsed on you, la la la. And again, give them the option to play it one way or another, because like I said, oh my god, so many parties over the year, we're like, we would rather die than lose our things. Yep. And I'm just like, okay. What I've taken to nowadays is when an encounter is going bad or they've made bad choices, and I'm like, okay, wizard, give me a, an intelligence saving throw. Or I'll just say, what's your, passive investigation? And then I'll slide them a note that says, you cannot win this encounter. And I just give them that note, and I'm like, please role play it well. And if if they get it and they like, I go, cleric, with your perception, you cannot win this encounter. And try to steer them away from it. And
So would we do death saves for our epic last stands? Eric is asking. I think if I go into cinematic narration, nobody's touching dice.
Yeah.
I think if someone has gone down and it's been an epic fight, it's time to make some death saves. And if they run out, then it's like, okay, your character died. Now we need a plan. But you get some warnings. Because you get the opportunity to say, okay, let's, you're on your first death save unless you roll a natural 1, which 95% of the time they won't.
Right.
And if they do, like one death save in, they roll a natural 1, we all kind of go, well, that's horrible luck, but sometimes that's the way it rolls. You can even, like, on death save 2, that's when you kick in the NPC rescue that rubs a little salt in the wound, as it were. A fair question, how does someone roll perception lower than their passive? Okay, my out to that is there are times I can find things when I need to pick them up, but the minute like if I go to leave the house, I can find my keys as long as I'm not thinking about where my keys are. But the minute I'm like, crap, where did I leave my keys? It could take me half an hour. So sometimes when you're actively looking for things, you miss them.
That's a great way to explain it. For me, I would say that it's, well, if the check is below their passive, they shouldn't be touching the dice anyway.
True.
That's sort of what I would say about that. And then I would just say that if it's there, they should just see it.
Although, have you ever seen someone
whatever.
looking up so desperately trying to spot a particular bird that they walk into a tree?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like sometimes you just bomb your perception.
Well, and I love playing like horrendously low wisdom characters. Love it. And so I constantly am like, again, I'm the 18 intelligence wizard, so I'm reading a book in the dungeon as I walk into the bugbear in front of me.
Yes, looking for traps so hard you trip on a stone. Yes. Yes. But I think that if you're going to narrate a character's end, that's the moment the dice come off the table. And again, it comes down to talking to the players, maybe even calling like a break. If you're like at a table to say, you know what, let's take a 5. I just want to sit down here with Gray and have a conversation because I wasn't. And here's the thing I'm not afraid to say to players. I wasn't ready for blah. I want a chance to talk to Gray and figure out how we want to handle this.
I use a full jar, right?
Yeah. and make a plan accordingly. Just to have a chance to kind of. So my son just came down to check to see how he should cook dinner. Great to have you hanging out, Eric. Hopefully we got some of your questions in here, and the rest of the show will be up on YouTube later or on the podcast platform of your choice. Don't forget to leave a review. If I can find you later, we'll send you. Thank you for the biddies. We will send you a Lantern Noir sticker in the shape of a rainbow D20. So yeah, they're supposed to be coming this week. So. This is a little thank you from the two of us. We might even have them autographed. I'm not sure if we'll talk later about if we can work that out.
I don't even have one yet.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole different thing for later on in the coming plans. But where are we going? Okay, so we know to do your checks, narrations, no dice. What are some other important like opening tips? So this is like our first volume of DM tipping.
Yeah, it
What else
wasn't.
were you thinking as like the big opening stuff that you should be thinking
Yeah.
about as a new DM?
Don't overplan. Everything is modular. Talk to the players. Death is big. Oh, great hat.
Thank you.
I can't wear hats. My big solid face always makes me look like a, you know, pinhead.
This is my Arkham Horror. She walked into the office looking like more trouble than I had had in 3 bottles of whiskey. That didn't stop me from giving her a seat and asking her how I could help her. She lit a cigarette with the kind of casualness that one might step on a bug or tell the cabbie that he's not getting a tip. I knew this dame was going to be trouble from that moment on.
I just saw a preview for a game called Chicken Police, and it's a noir thing. It's all black and white, but all the people have animal heads, and it's a story type game. It looks like a story type game, so looks good.
Cool.
It's like wearing tiny hats.
Tiny hats.
You look like a giant.
Yeah, this is one of my good ones. Yeah, it's weird when I go to leave the house. I have to come down to my computer station to find my hats because I keep them all down here at the computer now.
Oh, I've got a pile of them. It's just like I said, every time I put one on, I laugh at myself because I don't know what I look like in hats generally. But when I'm streaming, I pop hats on and then get a laugh out of myself. Anyway, yeah. So those are the big ones for I think. You know, how to get around your TPKs or how to mitigate those situations. You know, just kind of say, guys, you're losing this. I mean, is this your last stand, or are you going to try to get out of here, or do you want to end up, you know, like I said, you want to end up prisoners? Do you want to end up, you know, say Deus Ex Machina, saved by, you know, the Halfling Brewers Guild that you found their mead for them, or, you know, what do you want to do here?
Well, there's a lot you can do, and thank you, Ear, for gifting this up. We appreciate your support.
Oh,
it is awesome that you're doing that. Hit it.
All right.
Hold on. We have a sub sound. A second sub sound.
When I'm on a show and the people are allow me to do it, I take this mallet and I hit that guy in the face. Oh, that one was dud. Here, I'll give you a second one. There we go.
There we go. I also think that there's room to if you're going to do a Deus Machina rescue, you can hint that it's on the horizon. Like if you can hold out for one more turn.
Yeah.
If you can hold out, and it also gives the players a chance to go, oh yeah, let's hold out for one turn till the Halfling Brewers Guild gets here, or they can go, well, screw it, we're not going to have Halflings save our asses. We got to come up with a better plan because I'm not cool with this. Or even like, you know, hey Rob, no, we're not cool with that either. And like if the players trust you enough to be honest with you, like Rob, we'd really rather just die. You know, there's.
I've been wanting to play a pirate for a while now, so we're gonna
we're okay with that. Yeah, there's a lot of room to have those conversations. What else is really handy on the tips front? I found, I'm going to link it in the chat, a website, and I've mentioned it before, and you've seen it. We were talking earlier about my stream layout, and I'm going to definitely reference this again and again. This website is called improved-initiative.com. And it's put together by this programmer who has brought in all of these various all the open sourced parts of Dungeons and Dragons. And Ira, thank you for an additional gift sub. We really do appreciate your support. Bonk it again.
All right.
You gotta bonk it again.
We can always save them for later if there gets to be too many. That's a better one.
Good bonk. A programmer, you say yes. And what's neat with it is that he's put this together in a way that it tracks the initiative order. It has all of their stats. So as a DM, you just click to roll. Like I never touch dice. I just go to my initiative tracker. I'm like, oh, it's attacking. Click, and it does the roll for me. It even has, I discovered, built-in concentration checks. So if I tag that one of my players is concentrating on a spell, and then I assign them damage, it pops up to say, don't forget, they need to make a concentration check of DC 12.
That's incredible.
It'll auto roll it too, but I've like always turned to the players and say, well, it auto roll, but you probably want to roll yourself, and not tell them what the roll outcome was, or give them the chance just to accept it. But the best part about it is it's an easy way for me, without having to maintain a physical battle board, to have a board in front of them where they can see everything they're fighting and how they're doing, because it will show wounded, or so it shows hurt, healthy, hurt, bloodied, healthy, hurt, and bloodied.
Yeah.
So if they're savvy, they're like, okay, we did around 20 points of damage to get it to bloodied.
Yeah.
It's got to be around 40 some hit points overall. We're out of spell slots. And they can make some more informed decisions, whereas in the old days, we used to like turn around to a marker board and have to like write, or we have paper we were passing in front of, or if your players weren't on top of things, every once in a while they'd stop the action and go, wait. How many are there? Where are they? And what are their states?
Yeah.
Or like I saw one guy was doing this for 4th edition. He had flags.
Yeah.
He would stick into a cork board base under the minis.
Nice.
And he'd cut the minis to stand on 1-inch squares.
Right.
For the battle board, and he just stick all these little flags in. So when they got bloodied, they get a little bloodied flag.
Yeah. The so, and this is a good tip if you're playing at a tabletop. One of the things that I started doing is generally we'll have a battle mat out no matter what's going on, even if we're not using it. And then I have the players, like now that I have an encounter tracker or some of the apps, and I DM off my computer, that it won't be as necessary. But for a while, what I had them do is add up the damage. So they would keep track of the damage, and they'd be like, oh my God, we've done 80 hit points on this thing. Oh, how's it looking? And it would be a visual representation that they could all look down on the battle board where the markers, written at and stuff. So it would be a much better visual representation for them. Even if, like I said, we weren't using actual minis at the time, they would still have a better idea of how things are looking.
Well, it's neat too, because a lot of these trackers, there's one built into D&D Beyond, which I think has a player view. What I really like about the improved initiative, is it has a player view. That they have their phone. Here's a fact, folks. You are never going to get your players to put their phones in a basket and stick it in the other room. It's not going to happen. You'll get their car keys before you will get their phone. Let's be honest with each other. People show up to a game of D&D. I'm like, we're going to drink while we play. Here's a basket for your car keys. That thing is filled in 10 seconds flat. I say, oh yeah, and I want you to focus on the game. Here's a basket for your cell phones. I am going to get number of players plus 3 excuses why phones cannot be put in a basket. And that's just the way it works.
For instance, I am a 365 24/7 employee. I cannot put my phone in a basket. I have to respond if they call.
Yeah, but my students give me a hard time because they're expected to put their phones in the caddy during class. They say, well, you have your phone. Like, yes, I also have 2 children, both of which are at school, and I'm a primary contact. If one of them gets sick or hurt or killed, I have to answer my phone immediately. What's your excuse? And I want to go, well, I have a kid, and he's in, elementary school. It's like, okay, you can keep your phone today, but I am going to follow up on that just to see if there's any way I can support a young father who's trying to get through high school.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I will absolutely call your mother and ask how I can help.
How I can help you and her grandson.
Yeah. So suddenly the phone ends up in the caddy at that point. Handing out different types of counters. That's another good one. Giving them like, oh, you did some damage. Here's a thing to have.
And I think we hit this up on something else. But we use poker chips for our spell slots. and our spell levels. So there's different
Oh.
poker chips, and then they just spend them as slots. And for inspiration, I have little gold bars from a game that I no longer own the game, but I still have the little gold bars. So if they have inspiration, I give them one of these little gold bars, because as players they forget they have inspiration. But if you look down at your at the table, and amongst your dice there's this little gold bar, they're gonna go inspiration.
I get to roll again. And that's what it comes to. It's not so much I want to roll with advantage. It's I want to roll again, can I? But the thing about the cell phone is that the improved initiative tracker has a player view they can open on their phones.
Yeah.
And if you, I get no money from him. But
you should.
If you subscribe at the Patreon level, which is like $5 a month, your players can make suggestions on the player view. So they can do things like assign damage. They can tag monsters, and they can put like a tag on the monster that says something like targeted by, or tag themselves, I'm targeting so-and-so. And then you as the DM can modify whether or not you accept all of that. I'm pretty sure he's not paying me. I need to work on that. But it's one of those where he's not the only person who's done this. He's the one I found that I like the most and incorporated in my layout. Plus, again, if you pay for the Patreon, when a player's turn comes up, the splash screen shows up with whose turn it is.
Nice.
So, like, if they all have their phones out in front of them while they're playing, so they got their phone out, and all of a sudden, blam, they see their character portrait pop up. It's like, oh, crap, it's my turn. Because there's my face. I got to go. And I think this kind of bridges into the do a little bit of homework and find some good tech.
Yeah.
There's so many problems that you and I over the years have struggled through by going, I found a way to use sticky notes and I keep a pad about yay thick because I go through 100 of them in a game. Exactly. They're out there technology-wise that are way easier than what we used to do.
Yes. Yes. The whiteboards, the chalkboards, I mean, oh my goodness. We, again, Magic MTG, the Magic the Gathering counters. Yeah. Here's your hit points, boys. Everybody had like a baggie of the little stones, you know, that were their hit points, and they would bloop, 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 count them off. And instead of, a smeared onion paper thin spot where their hit points are on their character sheet, because they've erased it and rewritten it so many times.
Okay. So to kind of wind down our talk about tips, Obacon has made the point that the time of easily played D&D is nigh. I think in many ways, I have to completely agree. We are, depending on what you mean by is nigh. Sometimes I get confused as to the intention. I look at it as we are in a renaissance where the mechanics of playing an RPG are so simplified. Not just because the books are being written in a way to make it easier, because let's be honest, we started this podcast / stream because we were both like chatting up the kids about how to calculate THACO and what to do with it and why it was a good idea. We were both like defending this archaic system that we couldn't explain to people.
It's a chart on your character sheet, and it goes 0 to 10 and to -10. There it is.
wait, a lower armor class is better? Yes. And it's like the mechanics are simpler, but what I really like is that, like, my Wednesday night game, Jessie, I adore her deeply, hasn't played D&D since college, and that's a few years for her. Excuse me, Lenarius has never played a tabletop RPG.
Right.
Molly is a casual player, and then Tiffany and I are both kind of veterans, but there is no bar to get people in. It's like, here's your character sheet on D&D Beyond. You want to do a thing, click the thing, and off we go. I appreciate the hydrate. I do need to keep my water coming in. I'm almost done with my moonshine.
I don't have any real hydration today.
Well, then hydrate with the other stuff.
All right, that's fine.
That'll work out just fine. We appreciate the reminders, but I do think there's so much you can do to make things easier. You barely have to do math anymore. Yeah, kind of. And that's go ahead.
So My oldest daughter had cancer, and because of the cancer, she had 4 consecutive strokes, and so she has some immediate memory damage. And she loves Hero Forge. She loves D&D Beyond. If she had to make characters on a sheet of paper, it would take her hours to create a character. And she's probably got like 30 characters because this tool makes it viable for her to do that. Otherwise, it would be a craft, a creative thing she would want to do that she would have to struggle and get frustrated with, and probably would give up on. So I really, I'm just saying, they amazing tools. I'm so glad they're out there.
Well, and real quick, we could talk more about this in our next DM tips phase, because we're kind of onto the email section. We're bleeding into emails.
Got it. Okay.
And that is like Hero Forge is my go-to for new players that are at all hesitant. I point them at Hero Forge and say, play around until you like what you're looking at, and then send me a picture of it, and I'll tell you what we're going to do. and that's how my daughter's first character was, a tiefling warlock. Is she put this thing on paper, and she said, this is what I want to do. And I looked at it, like, well, okay, obviously it's a tiefling because it's got the horns and everything. Okay, cool. And she's holding like this skull flame. Okay, that says warlock way more than it says sorcerer. Okay, let's do it. And we kind of went with it. We do have some email to get to. Well, not email. We have a pinned question that was off topic, and I promised Ear that we would get to it.
Okay.
In our off-topic section. So we're rounding down the conversation about D&D Tips Volume 1. We do welcome your emails to oldtimertavern@gmail.com. You can email us a question for future shows there. You can also find myself at Lantern Noir on the Twitters, and you can also go to at Graybeard Tavern. No possessive S's in it.
Nope.
If you want to hit Gray, or hit both of us.
Mm-hmm.
We're happy with that. So you can hit us on the Twitters. You can also email us, and we will absolutely talk about whatever you have to say on our future shows in the email off-topic question section. And the question was, referencing streaming games, how long does it typically take for players to go from I'm showing up in my plain clothes to I'm showing up in cosplay?
Totally depends on the players. Because if they are coming from a more cosplay theme or thinking, if they're a critter and they're coming from Critical Role, they are gonna be like, I get to wear my cloak and my my antlers or whatever. And so session 1, makeup done, clothes, the whole shebang, and then it will get more refined as the time goes on. Or you have the guys who've been playing since middle school, and they show up in a ball cap and a sweatshirt to every session, and then all of a sudden everyone around them is in costumes and whatnot, and then they're like, fine, and then they finally get a wizard staff, and then maybe
a tunic, a tabard or tunic that they can wear to at least look like they're in character. And that's a tough spot. I feel bad. I had planned to cosplay with my players by breaking out my reenacting clothes. So I have like a full set of 18th century garments from back when I did reenacting before Kaylee was born. And I found my shirt, I found my waistcoat, I found my cravat, I got the shirt on, and I got the waistcoat buttoned, but I couldn't breathe.
Right. Okay, next up, initiative, roll for the initiative.
But I think it speaks a lot, though, to the addition of, depends on how you want to define gain into character. If by into character we define it as cosplaying while we are playing, I think that that's very much an artifact of streaming games and the knowledge that we are doing a combination audio video medium.
Yes.
Whereas, because I remember back when I was in college, we had a friend who bought a dress, and we said, "Where are you going to wear this dress? This dress really isn't you." And her answer was, "No, but my character would wear it."
Right.
And at the time, we were petty 20-somethings. We all kind of like snickered behind our hands, like, "Well, that's taking it a little far."
Yeah.
And then shortly thereafter, we got involved in live action gaming, where you were expected to dress the part of your character. And we really did start shopping for clothes for our characters.
Yeah.
Or at least going through our closets going, what would work if I were, okay, I'm going to wear that.
So there are 4 crates of costuming, SCA, reenactment, and LARPing clothes. I have a rack over there that is all like game stuff or whatever that I've had out. And then we all know I have more props than need to be, you know, like here I was playing in a future game, and here's my tactical vest. I got my old Gambison, the quilted Under Armour.
Oh, nice.
For my suit of leather back there from, you know, SCA fighting
Back in the day.
You know, yeah, you know, so yeah, costuming is fun.
I think traditionally dressing up to sit at a game table at somebody's dining room is still a little bit, not many people go that far.
Right.
I think when you're talking about conventions, and I think when you're talking about streaming,
yes,
and obviously when you're talking LARPing, costuming starts to move up. Yeah. Now, I think the point to which we're invested in, like, we have a story and we have a character and we have a voice for the character. Again, that varies a lot by the player, because some players sit down and they have a voice, not just a literal accent, but when I speak with, when I'm speaking as my character, you know who my character is because they don't talk like I do. And some people do that from day one. And some people kind of ease into that. Well, you know, I'm talking like my character because, haven't you noticed over this time I've developed him as having this kind of attitude toward things. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we the last Gen Con we went to, we never cosplayed it on our stream, but we loved the characters so much that we put cosplay costumes together for Gen Con. Yeah. So that we could walk around on Saturday on the big, you know, costume day. We could walk around Gen Con as our characters from the campaign we were in. And it was great. It was just a great day.
I'm going to be stumbled because I don't think Gen Con 2021 is going to be the big thing. But I'm going to have to start to think, because if my Wednesday night group keeps going, they are absolutely going to show up at Gen Con in costume. Like, that's just a done deal. And it's like, what does the Dungeon Master wear?
You'll have to get a new garb, set of garb.
Either that, I'm just going to dress up as Steven the Guard.
Nah.
Because he is so far my favorite NPC I've created in an incredibly long time. And I just like giving a voice to some guards that it's just not right that most of the time you get a job and nobody like even learns your name. You're just the guard on the Northwest Tower. And that's, you know, I got a wife. I got 2 kids. We have 3 cats. But no, I'm just guard number 7 to most people around here.
Guard at the gate told me.
Yeah. I had a name. It's not mine. But they all call me Roger, and I guess I respond to it because it's better than just looking confused. So, I love giving voice to that guy because it's one of those unspoken things in games.
The thing, me and my oldest daughter, have been playing a solo campaign just with her, and we've been playing all these kind of cutesy modules. So like every game she's picking up like a new pet or something. So like in the last one, she picked up a mimic that is now her pet because she fed it. And so, you know, it's just great to be like dum 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 dum. So it acts like a dog, you know. Like it gives this big tongue, and they were doing this weird thing where they were pulling a sleigh basically, and the mimic was leaning out the side, you know, with its tongue flapping in the wind, and you know, that kind of thing. So that's all kinds of goodness. The Garden Skyrim. Very, very nice, Obi-Con.
Yeah, but well, it's funny. My son dropped that one on us. I don't remember what the context was that he dropped it. We were talking about doing ski patrol as part of his skiing. And he's like, well, I always wanted to do ski patrol, but then I took a snowball to the knee. And there was this moment where like we all looked at each other. Did he just drop his first nerd joke?
Yeah.
Like that's a deep cut. All right. Hey, non-dairy, welcome aboard. But I do think that investment is such a weird thing to measure when it comes to the look of it. I love my Sunday gamers. I don't think if I were to say I'd like you guys to dress up for the stream, they're going to want to. But it also kind of leans into I've had so many people tell me I want to get into Dungeons and Dragons, but I don't think I can. And they'll say things like, I don't think I could learn the rules. I don't think I could keep up with it. I don't think I could understand what's happening. And I like the idea of, on a stream, showing an audience people in costume, because it's fun to watch. I mean, it's kind of neat to see Jessie all blued like her Jasani and Lenarius with the elf ears and her kimono as her monk. Yeah. At the same time, it's like, but that's not a barrier, and you don't have to dress up. If you just want to sit around the dining room table and crack open a bottle of wine and play, that's perfectly valid, and it can be a lot of fun. Shelley Mazanoble, who is the author of Confessions of a Part-Time Sorceress, she was a writer. I think she still is a writer for Wizards of the Coast. Yeah. And that Part-Time Sorceress is a great little book about teaching her about being a non-gamer, learning to play 4th edition. I think it may have been 3.5. It's been a while since that edition. But she literally, when she started working at WotC, she figured she had to learn to play Dungeons and Dragons because she was writing it. Right. So she called a bunch of girlfriends up, cracked open a couple bottles of wine, hung out for like an hour, and then she went and locked the door and said, you all are playing Dungeons and Dragons tonight. And that's the cost to get out of here. Right. And it's one of those where it's like, it's a great little anecdote about anybody, even if they don't even want to play, can figure it out enough to get through a night. Yeah. And they ended up turning into a gaming group for a while.
Well, and that's what I always say when anybody ever, you know, is doubtful or whatever. I will go back to a line that we have used, that we have come from two directions on before. Just think about what's around you, ask questions, and do what your character would do. You know, just say it, and if it can be done, we'll go with it. Don't worry about what's on the sheet and what's happening. We all know, the other, you know, 5 of us at the table or whatever, we all know which dice to roll and what rules to look up. And hell, here, look, my book is so crimped with page 75 because that's where all the hit tables are at. You know, don't worry about any of that. Just say what you want to do, and we'll run with it.
We'll figure it out.
Yep.
We will absolutely figure it out. We're close to time where we need to get in our cars and head home. Or I need to get the girl at the bar to bring me a coffee before I get in my car. What have you got coming up in the next 7 days of interest to people?
So I have Thursday night playing masks over on Indoor Adventures. On Sunday morning, I have I'm playing. I'll be playing on my channel, Gray Bear Tavern, on Twitch, where again, like I said, we play with toys and whatever the game is, I've got props for. And then I'm back here on Tuesday, but the next week is the 28th. Over on Wednesday, we'll be at doing our once a month Monster Noir Gamely Wrote, and it's a completely improv game over on Indoor Adventures. That's it. All I got for me, GB.
Cool. Tomorrow night I should be on 7:30 Eastern Daylight Time ish. We're going to be finishing our second adventure in Candlekeep Adventures, which that group is just going gangbusters, and it's fun. And we're trying to get Lenarius to the level where she can say, I want to do this thing. And I don't say, that'll look awesome in 3 levels. Because I do that with alarming regularity, and I feel terrible doing it. Because they're like, oh, I want to do a double arrow shot. You don't get 2 attacks per round yet.
Right.
Sorry. You can do 2 arrows, but it only counts as 1 attack.
Right.
And so that's Wednesday night. And then Sunday night, I start my Curse of Strahd game.
Oh.
So they're officially walking into Barovia going, okay, now what? And I'm feverishly trying to prep for that. And so that's where that's going to be at. And I'll probably be on maybe one. I no longer have Friday nights on my stream schedule. I might do bonus streams on Friday, but I thought I had to give myself at least one night off, one more night off in all of this, and kind of see where that all pans out. If you are listening to this on your podcast platform of choice, please consider leaving a review. It's a great way for people to find the show and to participate in help the show get out there so more people can come either listen to a live taping or send us emails or be part of this process. And yes, actually, Obicon, that Sunday night game that's becoming Curse of Strahd, that is the game with Nebula. So Nebula Gaming is one of my other players. I'm really lucky that I have a lot of amazing people that want to play D&D with me, which I am an incredibly lucky soul because they are great people between Nebula, Lenarius, Jesse, Molly Berry, Azteki, and all my personal friends that kind of fill the party out. Yeah. I'm incredibly lucky. Any parting thoughts for our podcast listeners today?
Grab some dice, grab some books, grab some friends. Don't be afraid to DM. It's not as hard as you think. If you screw something up, just know that you'll laugh with your friends and it'll be a good time.
And on that note, thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of our show. We appreciate you. And until the next time we all get together at a game table, please stay safe.